Welcome back to ADHD Whiskey. My name is Matt, and tonight we're discussing 5 bourbon marketing terms that are used to fool you. Don't be tricked, like I have so many times. Before I get this list started, I'm going to need you to hit the thumbs up and then hit the subscribe button, because you're going to thank me later when you're in the store and you're less poor. Number 1, you walk into a store and you see a couple bottles on a shelf. There's one bottle that looks nice, and there's the other bottle that also looks nice. But this one says small batch, just like this son of a bitch. It's a small batch. What does that even mean? Let me tell you what it means. Nothing. Friggin' nothing. It means nothing. What they're trying to say is this isn't like some giganto operation that has like 1,000,000 barrels being all blended together and then bottled for your pleasure. Unless, of course, that's their idea of a small batch, in which case they could put that on the label. Small batch has no definition. It could mean 3 barrels, it could mean 2 barrels, it could mean 3 million barrels. I feel like I explained that like we're 12. But if that doesn't make sense, I'll explain it to you like we're 5. Your definition of a small lunch is probably different than my definition of a small lunch. Number 2, the next bourbon buzzword, marketing thingamajigger that's gonna get you all mad and triggered is this word, or a group of words, or, grouping of words. Limited edition, rare release. They're using the tactic of scarcity. Scarcity, trying to scare you out of your mind. They're all old soul, 15 year. This is a great bourbon. It is. But if you look at it, you're like, boy, it seems to be good. Seems to be, it's 15 years old. That's great. I like that. You flip it around and you're like, I'm in the market for something like this. And then you see that it's a 2020 rare and limited release. And you're like, what the heck? I better. Got any more of these in the back? How many of these do you got? How rare is it? Nobody knows. How limited is it? Who's to say? All you know is that they're trying to scare you into buying it, and it damn well worked. Scarcity. When it comes to bourbon, there's a lot of bourbon out there. There's a ton of bourbon out there. So just because something says rare and limited doesn't mean that, like, if you don't buy it, you won't be able to get bourbon, because there's tons of bourbon. But it's a super solid, sweet, awesome marketing move. It's like an Allen Iverson crossover. You're defending it. You're like, I'm not gonna buy it. I'm not gonna buy it. And he's like, and you're like, what? Limited edition? And right on your ass. But then you catch the bottle because you don't want to drop it. And then he runs and hits a layup. Easy layup. Which means that he wins and you buy it. Friggin' Allen Iverson with a crossover, limited edition crossover bourbon move or something. The answer himself. It's not just expensive bottles either. There's a lot of like dirt cheap kind of crappy bottles out there that say limited edition on them, and you're like, what are you trying to do? And they're like, I don't know, but if you don't buy me, you'll never find out. And you're like, damn it, let's buy an old tub. Let's move on to the third term. Number 3. It's another form of scarcity. It's not necessarily used by the manufacturer, but it's used by distributors and store owners. You're gonna be like, hey, can I get some Buffalo Trace? And they're gonna be like, no, I'm sorry, that's an allocated item. And you're like, what does allocated mean? And they're like, you can't get it. Just because something's allocated doesn't mean that it's good, or that it's like special. I'm not a doctor, but I'm pretty sure that the word allocated doesn't mean delicious. Correct me if I'm wrong. There's a lot of allocated stuff nowadays. Like a lot of it, like most of it. So don't be tricked or something. Number 4. Number 4 bourbon marketing term that they're using to trick you and fool you and make you feel like you need to buy stuff is like talking about how stuff is hand selected or select. They went through all their barrels and they picked a single barrel, or they picked a small batch of barrels. And they're all, you know what? We did that for you because we want you to have the best product. And you're like, that makes so much not sense, because wouldn't you select those products like by hand anyway? Who's selecting them? If they weren't selected by you or somebody, or, on purpose. We'll go back to the small batch select. It's a select small batch that they selected especially for the small batch. Of course they did. Of course they did. The word select just adds a word to another bourbon marketing term, small batch, or single barrel. They use single barrel select all the time. Of course it was selected if it's a single barrel, right? They picked a barrel. Selected. You don't have to use the words. You know what? I'm feeling generous. We're gonna do 6. Since the scarcity thing was kind of closely tied together, let's do 6. Number 5. And I don't have an example here in front of me. You're just gonna have to believe me. You walk into a store and you look at a couple bourbons. One of them says bourbon. The other one says bourbon extra aged. Extra aged. You'll see this on a lot of Jim Beam bottles. It'll be like Jim Beam. And you'll be like, oh, it's Jim Beam. How old is this Jim Beam? Oh, it doesn't say. Then you look next to it, and there's another Jim Beam, and it says Jim Beam. Extra aged. You're like, it's gotta be good, right? Because they aged it extra. Like, how much extra? Who knows? If there's no age statement on the bottle, if it doesn't say how old it is, then the words extra aged doesn't mean anything. Those are just words. It was aged longer than what? Longer than what? Why did you not specify? If you're not specifying the age or how much longer, then all you're specifying is that you're using buzzwords. Vagueness is badness. And I feel like I'm being really extra right now, whatever that means. I've been told I've been extra a few times. I'm like, extra weight? Because that's accurate. And they're like, no, but that was just extra of you. And I'm like, that's really not helping. That was 5. This is the 6th tactic, and the bonus tactic used to trick you or to persuade you into buying bourbon. And it's validation. You walk up to a bourbon shelf, and there's all these bottles. And they're all they have awards all over them, and ribbons, and medallions and medals, and you're like, what is this? And they all say awards they won. Awards for this and awards for that. Well, if it's an award-winning whiskey, it's gotta be great. It's gotta be good. Wrong. Absolutely wrong. Why are they giving awards to all these things? How many awards are there? You know what? I will make an award right now. I'm the world's top whiskey taster, and this is the award for the best whiskey video on the internet. Friggin' nailed it. Friggin' boom. Gold medal. Double gold. Best in show. That's an award, because I just awarded myself that. Just because you see an award, it doesn't mean anything. It means nothing. Don't let them validate themselves to violate your wallet, because they'll do it in a jiff. In a quick jiff, they'll do it. My name is Matt. This is ADHD Whiskey. And this was a video all about things that bourbon companies are doing to schmooze you into buying their booze. By the way, occasionally you'll run into something that they do all of it. Before I get hate in the comments, I just want to let you know that this is one of my favorite bourbons. This is a wonderfully fantastic bourbon. But it doesn't excuse the fact that they use all the buzzwords. Every buzzword, every tactic. They're coming after you with the tactics and buzzwords. It's Doc Swinson's, the son of a bitch. Hand selected. Oh. Exploratory cask series. They explored all the casks. They went through all the barrels. Rare release. Scarcity right there. Rare release. Son of a bitch, I better buy this, son of a bitch. Then it gets super technical about all the stuff you need to know, which is nice. Oh, bottled when ready. So it's like perfectly aged. Bottled when ready. Limited edition, right there. Limited edition. Little bit of scarcity. Little bit of buy it now, little bit of FOMO. Oh, hand selected for character and bottled when ready. So you selected it. It was hand selected. They explored all the casks. They explored all the barrels by hand for this limited edition. Just so we know, it's bottled in small batches. So we're hitting it on all fronts here. Now, if this thing would just win an award already, geez Louise, hopefully, look on the back, it's a rare release. Next year, let's put some awards on this son of a bitch and put it over the top for the biggest buzzwords in bourbon, right there on the side. World Stop Whiskey Taster, ADHD Whiskey, one of the best bourbons of 2020. Gold medal. Doc Swinson's, if you hear me, stick it right there. I give you a gold medal. I give you a gold medal for bourbon, because it's delicious, and I gave you a gold medal for marketing.